Well, only 2 weeks ago, states across Australia were shutting their borders once again because of a large cluster of virus which had broken out in Sydney's northern beaches. Today, most of that area is in beach holiday mode once again, as the emergency now switches to the city's southwest and a cluster which emanated from a bottle shop at Barella. Meanwhile, mandatory mask wearing in public indoor venues began in New South Wales today, and the government has lashed out at wedding conveners who keep flouting the laws and endangering the public. Now, the latest occurred on Saturday night at Fairfield, where 700 wedding invitees partied less than 10 kilometres from the cluster suburb of Barella. New South Wales Police and Emergency Services Minister David Elliott joins me now. Minister, thank you for your time. You must be ropeable.
Well, I am, because it was Saturday night was a time when we were all supposed to be preparing for the new regime when it came to our COVID restrictions, and we had the Rooty Hill RSL Club and a wedding reception lounge in Fairfield, both within 20-25 metres drive from Barella, where that cluster would already been identified, just blatantly breaching the regulations and the spirit of the regulations, more to the point. And I think that shows a complete disregard for not only the government's attempts to make sure that we get back to normality as quickly as possible, but I think it just shows contempt for the community, because they'll be the first ones to complain if we have to go back into lockdown. Yeah,
you're not wrong, but so premeditated too. Premeditated on behalf of the wedding party, premeditated on behalf of the conveners of the venue, and the invitees, all 680 of them, so premeditated. Apart from the venue being fined, as I understand happened on Sunday, are there any of the wedding party or invitees likely to be fined as well? Do you know?
Well, I can tell you, Chris, that today I've spoken to both Minister Brad Hazzard and Minister Victor Dominello, and the possibility of having either of those venues have their licence suspended is not one that's out of the question. Right. And that is an option for Victor Dominello as the Minister for Liquor and Gaming. And well, you can imagine from my tone right now what my view is. But these licensed venues who have worked so hard right across the state to make sure that we could have a good Christmas and a great New Year, and people can get on with their lives in a normal capacity as possible. And then if two of them want to just breach the rules, if two of them want to just thumb their nose at the community, well, then two of them may find themselves without a liquor licence for a period of time.
The other event you mentioned at the beginning of the interview, at Rooty Hill, a human nature concert at West HQ, does it pass muster from what you've seen on the video?
Well, it doesn't, and as I've said to you this morning, Chris, I mean, it is not only the letter of the law, but it's the spirit of the law. And for the general manager of that club to go out and say, well, you know, I've done nothing wrong, well, there was clearly people that were singing. When I go into a theatre right now, you sit in clusters, you sit with gaps between parties, but they were all together in the footage that we saw on the news tonight. There was no sense of social distancing, and I do hope that every one of them did the QR code on their way in, because if there is an incident at the Rooty Hill RSL Club, the need to trace those patrons will be vital.
Now, what feedback are you getting from police tonight about the New South Wales adherence to this mandatory mask law?
Well, so far so good. I've had a few people contact me and say that they've been a bit frustrated that there's been people in the shops that haven't worn them. It is day one. The police have said to me that at the moment there seems to be, as we've seen through the entire pandemic, there's been general consensus that this is a good policy. There's been pretty good compliance, but you know, I do understand, and I've just had a report to a major retailer that there've been some patrons there that have been concerned, some customers there that have been concerned that there was no compliance, and it really is up to the retailers to make sure that as far as possible they can ensure compliance. And I'm not going to accept retail outlets saying it's not my job to ensure compliance. Well, it is your job to assure compliance, because when the police and the health department have to close you down because there's a breach or there's a cluster based around that outlet, you'll be the first one complaining, and that's what it all comes down to. We are not doing this to hear our own voices. Government doesn't do this because it's punitive. Government is doing this because we want the economy in New South Wales to hum as quickly and as efficiently as possible under these very difficult circumstances.
Now, there's been a tweaking of the number of fans who can go to the SCG from Thursday for the third test, Australia versus India. Has the government been pushing for a change from the expectation of 50% attendance?
Well, I don't think anybody was prepared for the good news this morning that there were no transmissions yesterday. So Stuart Ayres has got his finger on the pulse when it comes to these sporting events, and I'm quite sure over the course of the next couple of days, assuming that the rain doesn't delay play, that over the next couple of days, that if there is a possibility for us to, in a COVID-safe manner, allow more people to come into the cricket ground, well then we should, and that's my appeal to everybody that's wanting to push the envelope. These Rudy Hill RSL, you can operate. You just got to operate within the rules. The SCG will operate. They'll just have to operate within the rules that are set on the best advice from medical practitioners.
OK, and just very quickly, early this evening, a report on the Australian newspaper Online suggesting that 63 suburbs in Sydney have been placed on alert because of sewage tests. This has come out of the South West Sewage Treatment Works, has it?
Well, I haven't been briefed on that just yet. That'll be no doubt a subject for discussion at tomorrow morning's Cabinet Subcommittee. But the sewerage has been a great way for us to identify where these clusters are. We already know there's been a cluster in southwestern Sydney, and we've seen that. But it is really only one option for us to take intelligence from.
Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Always a pleasure, Chris. Thanks for having me.
David Elliott, Minister for Emergency Services in New South Wales.